Yo, what's good, YouTube? What's good? It's STORMYBMAN, and I am back welcoming you to the post-fight show with STORMYBMAN for this Saturday, September 25th, 2021. And we are here to talk about the fight that was the main card feature, the heavyweight championship, unified heavyweight championship of the world between Anthony Joshua and Alexander Usyk. Man, what a fight, huh? But as we get ready to get down into this show, welcoming everybody that's out there, first and foremost, thank you for stopping in. Don't forget to smash that like button as you come in. But know that when I put together my pre-fight videos, my pre-fight commentary that's on the Friday night chop session, you know, STORMYBMAN always tries to bring it and in full detail and everything. And sooner or later, people will begin to respect what I do, why I do what I do, and when it comes down to it, everyone has to admit sooner or later there are levels to the sport, and a lot of times people are being fed a lot of garbage when it comes down to the championship level of boxing. That being said, thank you all for stopping in again. We got some people out there. We got Mark Booker out there. He says, bless up, my shy brother. Bless up with you. Big Texas. Cletus is out there. He says, salute, Sensei. Salute to you. Shakers and Dice is back. Says, peace to the chat. Eating heavy crow today. AJ got washed by Usyk. Antoine Reed is out there. He says, salute, Stormy. Salute to you. Toddy Bellafon says, salute. That's a new person there. Keep your eye on him. We got Rasheed Rourke in the house. Says, peace, my brother STORMYBMAN, and peace to everyone. Yes. What did you guys think about what was happening in that main event for the unified heavyweight championship of the world? I think some people were surprised, huh? But I wasn't. I wasn't. And there are reasons that I was not surprised. But as we get ready to talk about this, listen, it's very clear, as I have said some things before in the past, and it may have even come across to some people who are definitely supporters of Anthony Joshua, that it may have come across that I may not have liked Anthony Joshua or had something against him or whatever when I was critiquing what he brings to the table. I said that Anthony Joshua is one of the most vulnerable titleists out there in the sport today. He proved that today. But the championship caliber fighter who definitely was someone who could cement the fact that AJ hadn't progressed. That's what we saw in, forgive me, I just had something fall off my shelf here. Alexander Usyk is an accomplished fighter. You heard me speak about it last night when I said that this gentleman had won gold in the 2012 Olympics, just like AJ, but at the heavyweight division. AJ was the super heavyweight. But he had went on to become world cruiserweight champion. And in his endeavors in the sport of boxing, he has taken on the best at cruiserweight. And when he moved up to heavyweight, he was trying to fill the same shoes that Evander Holyfield did when he moved from cruiserweight to heavyweight after becoming undisputed champion at cruiserweight. So this man is cementing himself in history against the most vulnerable titleists in the sport today. But he proved himself to be shades better than Anthony Joshua in boxing skill. And for those who always think that the good big man will beat the good little man and everything, please throw that out the window, because, you know, there's a reason that the Bible talks about David and Goliath, okay? But you have to understand that it takes skill to do these things. It's not just something that you're going to be fortunate to pop on in there and start beating someone just because they have a size advantage or whatever. You do have to you have to put it on the line, so to speak. And that was done this evening in that fight. So, yeah, what a fight. And I was ready for my man Boxing Conversations with Reggie Owens to stop in the building. Reggie, are you out there?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Welcome to the show, man. Some of my graphics are acting up. My laptop is kind of giving me trouble again. So I can't, even though I got the icon for Discord up, I can't see that you there. That's why I asked. But welcome to the show, man. Great call. I pulled back as the rounds went on in your call of the fight because I knew what was getting ready to happen. So I just kind of let it play out. I liked how you called the fight. Around the 7th round, I had the fight even, and not by like wishful thinking or anything. I was really critically scoring the fight as best as I could with what I was seeing. But then USYK began to pull away and put a great deal of distance between he and AJ. And something that I said about him last night in the show when I played that clip of him talking with Johnny Nelson came to pass in the fight. And that was the fact that AJ sometimes, and most times, but he talks this gibberish, but he tries to sound like he's confident. He tries to sound all these things, but I see through all of that, and he's not. But in the fight, when he started to feel like it was slipping away, he took no gambles. No risk. He had no answers. He couldn't make adjustments. And mentally, the only thing he could do is kind of posture and smile at the guy or whatever, but he had no other options. Limits are upon him heavily. Limits. I had said that this man has not gotten better since he defeated Prince Charles Martin. But I'll let you come in, and Reggie, open up with your thoughts. Go ahead, do your thing, and I'll listen to what you have to say.
Man, salute to goddamn USYK for going in here and putting on a goddamn schoolhouse playground beatdown on this dude. I mean, this was a brutalizing beatdown, and you've seen it in the way in which AJ sat in that dang corner at the end of this fight. That eye socket, Kell Brook status. Can AJ go forward? Don't know about it, because the other eye may turn to Kell Brook status for him. I mean, this was just a beatdown, and it started off from the get-go. The song selection atrocious. And the song selection matches his performance. Him coming out there, that long, drawn out ring interest, I can see the nervousness setting in. And just like you were speaking of the video yesterday, him making that conversation and all of it dealing with the mental aspects and what fighters have to overcome mentally, showing that he has a lot of doubt within himself. So with that doubt even being casted upon him still taking this slow track into the ring. And I'm like, dude, hurry up, touching everyone's hands, looking around, just trying to delay the inevitable for as long as he could is all he was doing with that ring walk. And then when the bell rings from round one, he looks so confused. He looked so confused. And a lot of the people who were going for AJ was like, he's just trying to fill him out. Well, how's he filling the guy out? He ain't doing anything. He ain't throwing a punch. He ain't gauging where distance is. He was just being locked up, and USYK was not intimidated. I like the fact, I thought USYK was going to be moving around. USYK stayed right in his grill, right in distance where he needed to be. And with AJ being so heavy on his, he couldn't move forward, and USYK knew that. USYK can make a little micro step outside to keep AJ out of range. AJ's lead jab couldn't even touch USYK, because he couldn't gauge where he's throwing, where he needed to be to throw the punch to land. He had nothing. His feet were too wide. He just looked bad, and USYK could do moving around. And USYK wasn't using that ring. USYK was just basically circling around him within range. So USYK can circle around him, make him reset his foot, pop him, catch him with something. And then to watch, I didn't think USYK was going to have the power in this fight. The other thing, before going to that, it was funny hearing in this post-fight that USYK's corner, USYK said he's going for the knockout. That's how much he had no respect for this clown AJ. USYK said he was knocking AJ out. USYK corner told him, don't go for the knockout. Relax, just boxing. Just hold back. And then to watch him crack AJ in that fourth round and hurt AJ severely, watching AJ hold on, it was once again reminiscent of what happened in that Anthony Ruiz fight. Except he's dealing with a guy who moves a whole lot better than Ruiz. Then going in that very next round, watching him get caught again and get wobbled. In that fourth round, AJ ended up, and then AJ shows he got no killer instinct at all, because it was multiple times he hurt USYK to the body. His punches to the head. USYK took every single one of AJ big punches well to the chin. Every single one of them. They had no effect on him. AJ rocked him to the body like it hurt him to the body. And what did AJ do? Nothing. AJ didn't do a damn thing to take advantage of those moments, because he doesn't have it within him. And USYK was able to get away, recover, and in return and just popping this dude in his mouth, cracking him in the eye, and just working him down to the body. And every round, when they're in that corner, watching AJ over there breathing heavy. Watching him breathing heavy, like this ain't looking good. Then watching him as he throws, he just start throwing off punches, throwing them away. Like, what are you doing that for? You're exhausting your dang self. Because, and the other reason why he's doing that, from what I was thinking, is he's trying to get a feel for where maybe he needs to be. But you can't get where you need to be if your feet are planted in the dang canvas, like mud, like glue is on them. This is just clinical. It was clinical. And the fact that USYK was so locked in front of 70,000 people for AJ, and that he performed in a fashion in which he performed, it was brilliance. He wasn't worried he was so locked in and focused on this fight. That crowd meant nothing. That crowd meant nothing. And it meant nothing for AJ, because AJ just looked shook from the onset of this fight. He looked so confused, and it's only going to get worse with him going forward. I mean, and it's funny, and this is what they both get. This is what Eddie Hearn gets. This is what he gets. And then they're going to sign this contract. You sign that contract for what? You parading that contract for what? Whatever you sign with him. But it all blew up in your face. Y'all held this game up for so long. This dude ran away from a guaranteed $50 million that probably could have possibly made him in the range upwards of $100 million to avoiding Deontay Wilder. Then you try to do this little fast escape, you and Tyson Fury, to taking on some fight put on at the last minute, and that falls through. And then in this whole conversation leading up is all this talk about AJ and dang Tyson Fury. Your focus should have been on USYK. And I'm glad it played out this way. And I'm glad these judges got it the right way. I was having a feeling they could not, and they better not have robbed this guy. it was perfect. I'm so amped up by watching what I watched. And salute to Alexander Usyk. Change that national anthem, Ukraine. It sucks. But that's all I got for this one.
Listen, man. The thing that I see people out there in the chat, they're saying, "Oh, Stormy got that big smile on his face, told you so smile," or whatever. No, and if you notice, when I've done my post-fight shows, even if I called the fight, correctly, saying who I thought was going to win, it's not about that. It's really about my feelings are more toward, like, I want you all to take note of my knowledge of boxing as a former trainer and coach in the gym, working with people. When I have something to say, please listen to me. I don't talk from a position of just, blowing smoke. And when I've said these things, particularly about AJ, it was never with malicious intent. It was from the observation of seeing what was there and what was not there. Okay, so let that be known first and foremost. I don't rejoice in someone, losing. I do rejoice in Usyk winning because he earned it. And we've seen, as of late, a lot of fighters earned victory and didn't receive it. So the fact that he got a unanimous decision in this is even more gratifying. My smile on this is simply because when someone who has the ability to do something, and nobody knows about the guy much. A lot of people don't know who Alexander Usyk is. They don't know. They may have just got on board with that or whatever in recent weeks of, the fight being announced and all of that. But for those who are, real true studies of the sport and everything, this man has a history. He came right along that same Olympics as AJ. And he accomplished more at cruiserweight than AJ accomplished at heavyweight by who he fought. Remember, some of those titles that AJ acquired were vacant titles. And one was just dropped into the fight with he and Klitschko. I think it was the WBA or something like that. It was just dropped in there. They like, oh, why don't you fight for our belt too? Put our belt on the line here. So it's like he didn't even have to go and work hard facing guys to collect, Joseph Parker ransomed his belt to AJ. You just saw these things happen when on the other side of things, the WBC and champion Deontay Wilder, nobody wanted to face him because he was on this huge knockout streak, knocking people out. But Wilder wasn't as fully developed in his boxing capabilities. It could have been it was a threat. It's always a threat, but it could have been maybe an easier task had he went and fought Wilder years ago when he was supposed to. That was, as much as people say, oh, Wilder would knock him out, he still would have had an easier time facing that type of opponent because AJ has problems with smaller opponents. He does. That was one of the things that I pointed out in my keys. And if the ref let the smaller fighter fight his fight, AJ was going to have trouble. And he's had help from officials in the ring, and he's had help from judges outside the ring. But before I say any more, I want to welcome the brother Curtis Anderson, a.k.a. Kurt Sugar, who's joined us on the panel. And Kurt must feel excited. He's feel good enough to come on here and talk about this fight. So I'm going to throw the mic to Kurt. Welcome, Kurt. Tell us your thoughts on the fight.
Well, I picked Joshua by 8th-round knockout. I try to have a little belief in him, but he's worse than I thought. He never progressed. When you don't progress in boxing, you regressed. We've seen it with the Charlo brothers, but there's a pattern here. Yordenis Ugas and Alexander Usyk are pure boxers. They're coming off huge victories over Manny Pacquiao and now Usyk over Joshua. And sometimes we think about power and we forget about boxing acumen. Usyk was a Olympic medalist, gold medalist, I believe, and was a cruiserweight champion. You know, have 4 belts in this era. And now he's the unified heavyweight champion. And every fight has its own energy. But the thing about boxing, we go by how a fighter looked in his last fight. And Usyk against Chisora didn't look good at all. Maybe because he knew he had Chisora in the ring. And he had to come and fight his fight against Joshua. Usyk has a very, very educated left hand. He moves, you know, he times you with it. He finds the range. He moves around the ring, and he throws it. You know, very unorthodox, but it's very effective. And Joshua didn't know what hit him. Joshua was flustered. He was very confused. He was hurt on at least 2 or 3 occasions, but he, you know, had a poker face. His eye was closed. You know, he was a frustrated champion. But this was a bad performance by Joshua. Joshua is Frank Bruno all over again. And many heavyweights could beat Joshua. You saw with Andy Ruiz. I didn't like how Joshua looked when he won against the Carlos Takams and Joseph Parkers and the Pulev. He's exciting because he's a very vulnerable champion. He could be outboxed, or he could be outpunched. He could be outthought, out-hustled, everything. You know, I don't have nothing against Anthony Joshua because he made it to the mountaintop. He is a 2-time world champion. But he has flaws. He can't help that. That's just who he is. He has flaws. He has major flaws. And those flaws were exposed again tonight. He was knocked out against Ruiz. He was outboxed against Usyk.
Yeah, absolutely. And before I go any further, I want to say salute to Case Nasty 0102 out there in that super chat. Thank you for your super chat donation. We appreciate you. He says, salute Stormy B-Man, Sensei, and salute to the chat. Thank you again, Case Nasty, for the super chat donation. Yeah, this is why I say the things I say about Joshua, because you know, there was a story going about that he, you know, was having words with Lennox Lewis, and it just spoke volumes about this new generation, how sometimes they think they know better, you know, and he was being a little bit disrespectful for Lennox when Lennox had made critique over some things regarding, you know, AJ. But the fact that AJ, even after losing to Andy Ruiz Jr., he didn't get better, people. And just understand that when he won the fight in the rematch, it was a double entrande there. What happened is Andy didn't come in the second fight in the same shape he was in the first fight, which was still questionable condition. He came in much worse, woefully worse. AJ fought the type of fight that, and I've stated this in the past, I said he fought like he was playing keep away. You know, keep away from me. He kept his punches, on the outside extended, and Andy Ruiz did not have the energy or conditioning to get close, to do some damage, to try to hunt him down and fight. So basically, AJ fought like that, and people were thinking like, oh, AJ boxed. He used a different set of skills in this fight. He's showing, new wrinkles. No, he was fighting against a guy who wouldn't have caught him unless he was a walking taco. You understand? That would have been the only thing to make Andy Ruiz break out and go after him, as if he was a supersized sausage pizza or a taco or something, burrito, something like that. outside of that, Andy wasn't motivated. Okay? And AJ won because the other guy couldn't win. Unless AJ stood there in front of him and let him knock him out. Notice how AJ chose to try to stand there in front of Alexander Usyk, and Usyk was touching him up. Usyk was the one giving the movement. Usyk was the one stepping around, and he had a beautiful shot that he was throwing from the southpaw position over AJ's jab, that right hook. The same right hook that Terrence Crawford caught Kell Brook with. He didn't see the punch, and he was hitting AJ with that all night, which made AJ wary. He couldn't tell when it was coming because Usyk could throw it off of all different types of positions. If he slid over, he could throw it. If he moved to his left, he could throw it. So AJ couldn't time it. And then that's why the straight left would come down the middle and catch him solidly. The straight lefts to the belly, and also the left hooks that were coming around the side. The man was touching AJ up with a variety of punches because he was well practiced in his offensive game. But did you notice his offense and his defense? Alexander Usyk's ability to slip shots and counter. His upper body movement reminded me of like the young Mike Tyson, who could slip shots and then counter off of his slipping because he was taught to do this off of movement. You anticipate the shot as it comes, and you do something off of it. Sometimes you give a look off of it, sometimes you give an action off of it, but you're doing something all the time to make the other guy think. I saw after the first round, AJ was like, oh shit, when the bell rang, because he realized it's going to be a long night for me. Because Usyk had something that he had never experienced before. He had the ability to stand in front of him, fight him, not get hit, and hit AJ back. That had never happened before. Remember, AJ was a big guy, 260 pounds, muscle, and if you heard Mr. Johnny Nelson and those idiots, and yeah, I'll call them idiots, over there talking about his size, his reach, his punching power, that doesn't mean anything if you're in there with a guy who's versed enough to take your strengths away from you. It's called boxing. That's what it's called. Johnny Nelson and all of those UK announcers and Mr. Ak and Barack and all of those fools. Yeah, I said their names because you know what? They are disgraceful when they talk about the sport of boxing. You got a guy over here who is a highly decorated champion, who is totally capable of competing at this level. He's done it. It's just y'all don't want to acknowledge it. And because you're company men, you're bought, paid, and sold and told for because you're just trying to big up this guy. But as I've told people, and I'll continue to say it, the man is the most vulnerable titleist in the sport today. The most, at the most impactful division. Usyk has come up and made history. And if you want to see this fight again, because there is a rematch clause, the second fight ends in a stoppage because AJ is going to give up. He gave up inside of 10 seconds in the last round. And if Usyk had just thrown a couple of more punches, he would have taken a knee and went down. Because did you see him in the corner after the fight? They waiting on the judges' scorecards, and AJ, he looked like a man who had been knocked out already. And he was over there huffing, puffing, squinting his eyes and everything, saying, thank God that's over, man. I don't want to go out there no more. I don't want AJ, the fight's over. This is the last round. Oh, please don't send me out there. Please, I don't want no more. Yeah. If they had asked him right there at that moment, AJ, we're going to do one more round because of something happened or whatever, AJ would have turned around, got out the ring and said, F y'all, I'm going. Huh? That's how terrible and how bad a shape he looked. But if you remember my Friday night chop session, what did I say? I said all that talk that he was doing. That was mouth service, trying to sound intelligent, but you really sound like a hollow person, because I saw right through that. And if I were working the opposite corner, I would have been telling USYK the same thing, which his trainers and coaches probably were. This guy, he's not confident. Go out there and take it to him. Take it away from him. And that's exactly how USYK fought. He fought exactly that way, took everything away from Joshua. Joshua had no choice but to stand there and try to fight. But he couldn't even string rounds together because he had no answers. And guess what? Them guys in the corner giving him water and rubbing on his chest and all that, they weren't giving him much instructions either. Huh? So all of that. And he want to talk about Lennox Lewis? But at least Lennox Lewis found a way to get better by going to get other people to help him. Huh? Qualified people like Emmanuel Stewart. Huh? Not just a bunch of I would call those guys around him yes men. That's what they were. Huh? Guys who would rub baby oil on them and everything, but can't tell them a damn thing to do about the sport of boxing. I want to take a quick moment and acknowledge a couple of super chats that came in. We had William Old School Ardent out there. He says, salute Stormy B-Man. I should have bet. Yeah, if you listen to the breakdowns and pay attention and try to study up on these fighters so you'll know what you're looking at going in, be confident in that way, you know. Then we got my brother, 78 Sports TV, the general out there. He says, salute Stormy and the chat, hashtag LDBC. That's right, General, we out here, man. We cooking on this one. AJ needs help. And the people that he's got around him are incapable of advancing him to another level. Had he done like Joshua Buatsi did and went over to the U.S. and got him a qualified American coach, a Virgil Hunter, a Derek James, Buddy McGirt, or someone like that. What's my name? Man named Ronnie Shields. If he had got with someone like that a couple years ago when he lost to Andy Ruiz, he wouldn't have lost tonight because they would have had him up to speed. Okay? Now, the reason that he's been inactive and he hasn't fought more is that very notion that he's vulnerable. They are milking it. You remember Milli Vanilli? Where were they from? Huh? Where were those guys from? And you remember what they were known for? They were known for performing, having records out there and everything. And it wasn't even them singing on the records. It was like they would come to the concerts and everything, and people was like, yay, Milli Vanilli, and it wasn't even them. Huh? So AJ is the Milli Vanilli of the heavyweights in boxing. You thought you were looking at a real champion. That guy, you know what? He's a contender at best. A contender because he's capable of beating some people, and he has. But he's not world class by no means, especially if you want to talk about the world class being fighters like USYK, Tyson Fury, and Deontay Wilder. I had said the reason that Eddie Hearn, now think about this for a moment, the reason that Eddie Hearn hasn't given Dillian White another shot against AJ is because Eddie Hearn realizes that Dillian White is better now than when he fought AJ a few years ago. He's better. He's gotten better. But guess who hasn't? And guess who's lost now for a second time for not being? And how long has he had those belts? And how many title defenses in the time that he's had them? How much time has lapsed? And they just re-signed the guy for the rest of his career. Oh boy, this you couldn't make this stuff up, man. You couldn't make it up. Come on in, Reggie. You got some more to say?
Yeah, blame it on the way. Ooh, of you. He's straight out here, Milli Vanilla in his boxing career, man. Oh my God.
Hey,
Oh man.
perfect analogy, right?
Right? Hey, but he ain't, to be honest, all that stuff should have been done in the infancy of his career, because it was one of these things, they're running all these build-ups to the fight, and as he sat down, he was talking to them two cats, Ak and Barak, and he was talking about how though it would have been better, those guys were looking to hunt for him early in this stage of his career where he becomes a champion 3 years in. That would have been the best moment for them to catch him as he was learning. No, that would have been the best moment for you to bring yourself over to America and get the proper training that you need. At this point, I think AJ is damaged goods, and then people will be like, "Well, how can you say that? It's just a loss." And why are you writing the guy off? It's not writing him off. There's other thing. There's a reason why I'm saying that. There's not to say he can't be trained. Well, how are you going to say this? And I'm just countering what people will say who are AJ fans and will bring in the Wilder situation. Well, Wilder's making adjustments to his game and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, Wilder can do that. The difference is Wilder hasn't lost the mental edge. He hasn't lost the mental courage. He hasn't lost his mental heart. He's willing to go in here and engage. AJ mentally is damaged in this game. AJ is afraid to be hit. He's afraid to engage. And you see what happened when he was hit by USYK. He really has punch resistance issues. He has major resistance issues. And even with him trimming down in weight, he has cardio issues. He began to fade majorly in there. Now, if he's in here against a bigger heavyweight, being afraid to get punched, and it's starting to diminish cardio-wise, and he's already affected mentally, he's going to embarrass himself. And I can see AJ being one of these guys that get knocked out, and he adds the embarrassment of being one of these guys that cry when waking up, figuring out what happened. It's just the end of the road, to be honest, if he's going to compete with these top guys. I think he's at the point to where Dillian Whyte can knock him out. That's where I see AJ at right now. Dillian Whyte can probably knock him off, to be honest. I think mentally they're in two different places. Skill-wise, yeah, AJ has the skills, but they're not, things aren't matching up. There's no meeting of the mind when it comes to these two aspects of the game. They're just way out of balance. They're chemically imbalanced, and it's not a good place for AJ to be in there. Looking at this fight against USYK, he doubted himself so much in this fight, and you've seen it from the way USYK will walk at him. He's backing up from this small guy who should have been walking forward at. He's backing up from him. He's flinching. Anytime USYK goes to feint at him, he's falling up, curling up. That's a problem there. For you to be a big guy like that against a smaller guy who's dominating you like that, he may have to rethink these things. And Eddie Hearns will probably have to slap him around and give him the avoid that whatever the deal they sign. I don't know what's the stipulations to that deal. Maybe AJ gonna have to fight at light heavyweight, but heavyweight, nah. Heavyweight's gonna be a bad place for him to be campaigning at. He might as well continue to drop some more of that muscle, and maybe he can get down to being a welterweight or something. But up here, it's dangerous level for AJ. It's a dangerous level for him. But that's my thoughts on that.
Yeah, I'll go to Kurt in just a moment. I just want to acknowledge a couple of transactions here. We got Adam Lord out there who decided to sub to the channel. Thank you for becoming a storm chaser out here. Adam Lord, thank you for that subscription. We got Mr. Pac-Man 216 out there in the Cash app. He says, preach. Salute to you, Mr. Pac-Man, and appreciate that. And Eric Jenkins is out there in that super chat. He says, Stormy B-Man, this is not surprising. Do you think AJ is trying to become a 3-time unified champ? No. Listen, that may be trying to imply he might have lost this on purpose. Dude, he didn't lose this fight on purpose. He may have lost it with purpose, but not on purpose. Okay? And let's just say that for someone like Alexander Usyk, with the type of experience he has, now that if they choose, and I expect them to exercise their rematch clause here, Usyk will win even easier the second time. because he's not going to get woefully out of shape. He's not going to be a guy who is distracted and blinded by the lights or whatever. He's an accomplished winner in the sport of boxing. And now that the man has elevated from the amateurs world champions to the cruiserweight world champion, he's now a heavyweight world champion. Listen, he's going in the Hall of Fame. Okay? And that man will come back and beat AJ down in a rematch for the simple reason that he wants to cement his claim to fame. You have to understand how this works. I keep telling you, you've watched so many fighters out here in this present time who have been awarded opportunities but didn't earn them. You earn it by getting it out of the mud. If you defeated the reigning champ who had been around for a number of years or whatever, and you did it cleanly, I ain't talking about on PEDs and everything like that, because we're seeing that too now. But if you're able to defeat somebody and you had to go through that to get your glory and everything, it's much sweeter, okay, than someone just to email you and say you're now the WBC champion, because the real champion who was there don't want to fight you. No. See, and we've seen too much of that. But no, AJ ain't trying to become a 3-time champ. He probably will not become a 3-time champ. Okay? Even in this age with all these belts out here, because the door is open as well as the book on who he is. And anybody who's at the top level of the sport knows exactly what to do to him. It all came out in the wash tonight when you saw his performance. But let me swing it to Kurt Sugar. Kurt is on limited time. I know. Hey, Kurt, you got some more you want to add to the conversation about this fight?
Yeah, boxing is a scientific sport, and we've seen that tonight. The movement of Usyk and an intelligent fight plan he had. He's a very educated fighter. He throws an educated left hand. He moves around on his opponents. He tries to get the distance. And that's the typical Eastern European style. They adopt that style. As an Olympian, as an amateur, he had an amateur record of 335-15. This guy is a very accomplished fighter. And I think some of us forgot about that. You always give a chance to a guy to win the fight, especially like Usyk, but he didn't look good against Witherspoon. He didn't look good against Chisora, but he looked good tonight. That left hand was all over the place, man. That swelled up Anthony Joshua's eye. And to Usyk, congratulations to him. He just fought a beautiful fight, man. I'm not going to trash Joshua because this is Usyk's moment. Usyk, man, is the best pure boxer in the heavyweight division, and he'll be some more big names. Joshua's not the only one.
Yes, sir.
Yes, I definitely agree with that.
Huh?
I was saying I definitely agree with that. It's possible Usyk can be some other big names out there. Most definitely.
I said in my pre-fight breakdown, I said that Usyk is probably the one fighter who would give both Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury trouble because of his skills. That is not something, am I saying, he's just going to go through and walk through all of these guys? No, he would have difficulties because they are bigger men with different types of styles, and it would be something that he would really have to work at. But let's just put it like this. He's in their class. It's proven that AJ is not. He never was. But they had a good run. They had a good run of fooling the people, making people think that they were looking at a nice heavyweight that they could get behind and everything. He's got a nice smile. He's got muscles. You could take pictures of him doing muscle poses and stuff like that, and that's marketable stuff. But in the ring, people will open you up like you at a butcher's shop okay, and expose your guts. And we find out that his guts are pretty rotten. And that's not his fault. I blame a lot of the guys that's around teaching him and everything, or lack of teaching that's around him, because he could have been a lot better and much further along than he is right now. People make jokes about Joe Joyce all the time, but Joe Joyce is a better fighter than Anthony Joshua. And that's a fight that you would never see take place between the two of them, because I'm telling you right now, Joe Joyce will definitely bring the dog out of him. Okay? That other kid over there, Dubois, same thing. From what I understand, Dubois already beat him up in the gym, and that was before he had 10 professional fights. Yeah. So, you know, AJ is going to have to reconsider some things. The way he's performed in fights, this was not Carlos Takam. This was not Joseph Parker. This was not Kubrat Pulev. Although he was of the size of those guys. But look at the difference in skill set. And look at the response and the reaction of AJ having to face that. Could you imagine him in there with Tyson Fury? How he could have possibly come apart mentally, since he's not that confident a guy? Could you imagine if he was in there with Deontay Wilder, and the first time Deontay let a right hand go against him, whether it lands solidly or not, how he might just crumple up and lay down because he's not that confident, you know? Salute to the brother, the African sci-fi scholar out there in that super chat. He says, salute, how does Usyk career trajectory compare to the legendary Holyfield? Well, he doesn't have the legendary fighters around during his era of fighting that Holyfield had, but he's on a fast track to accomplishing a great deal of what Evander accomplished. Because remember, Evander had to wait almost 3 years being the #1 contender to Mike Tyson, who wouldn't fight him. So in the meantime, he won those NABF belts and what was the other ones? They had those Intercontinental belts. He won those and was just waiting for Mike Tyson, who elected to fight Buster Douglas, and Buster lost. And then when Evander beat Buster, he became the undisputed champion that way.
USBA belt.
Yes. And Usyk did something similar. He's come up to the heavyweight division. He had a couple of fights and he challenged the main man, and he won all those belts off of him. There's one more belt out there for him to go get. Will he seek to do that? We'll find out. But I'll tell you this, he's this era's respected fighter for accomplishing what he's done. Look at what he's done in the amateurs. Look at what he's done in the pros and the divisions that he's fought in. You cannot knock that. You have to give the man credit. And there were there were people out there, content creators and professional analysts and everything, not giving the man a chance just because he's only 6'3", but he was 221 pounds. Last I checked, Evander Holyfield wasn't even that big. He was 6'2" and 208, 210 pounds when he was fighting at heavyweight. So there you go. Salute to Teddy Fresh out there in that super chat. He says, how many straight lefts does it take before Joshua decides to move his head? No, the bigger question should be, why didn't Joshua decide to move his head? Think about it. Does he think he's being tough, taking shots? Psychological stuff there, man. I'll leave that one for you to think about. But, yeah, it is what it is, man. It is what it is. People are going to be sore. They're going to be salty that their guy lost. Hey, it happens. When you're in there with someone good, you could lose. I had said on paper, this fight is very close. It's like it could go either way. There were people saying, oh, the guy's going to get knocked out. He's not going to go past 5, 7, 8 rounds, all of that. I'm like, okay. Yeah. So now we'll find out the excuses will come. He had a pre-existing injury. Something was wrong. His cat died. All of that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? So be prepared for that too. That's the next step. Kurt, did you want to stick around for more of the show where we talk about some of these other fights or no?
Yeah, I'll stick around.
Okay. We're going to go into the co-main event where Lawrence Okole.
Wait, let me say this part, OG.
Go ahead.
Those looking for, let me say this. There's a lot of people in here. Please hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. But those looking for this rematch, because I know they talk about a rematch clause. AJ may have to second guess that after hearing the fact that Alexander USYK's corner told him to not go for this knockout. USYK seen that he can knock this guy out, and their thing was no. Let's make them believe it's a bad night so that they want to take this rematch. Then we'll go and knock this guy out. So that's something AJ and them probably gonna really think about whether or not he moves forward with trying to fight this guy. But go ahead, OG.
Yeah, I was simply going to say that we go to the Okole fight. Lawrence Okole, who's now he's at cruiserweight now, and they're trying to build him up there. He took on Dylan Prasovic, and that fight was supposed to be Okole he had an opportunity to unify his title against someone else, and this guy was a mandatory for the title that Okole has. So he pushed for his fight and everything. He probably wishes he didn't now, because after the events of this fight, man, he got his ribs handed to him raw. You know, I like my ribs grilled nice and tender off the grill, but this guy Prasovic, he his ribs were raw after Okole got that good body shot in on him. What were your thoughts about that one, Kurt?
I'll tell you, his opponent didn't offer much. It was more of a showcase, stay busy fight. I want to see Okole versus Marius Brandes, the other champion, because he's a little long in the tooth, but it'll be a good fight. Okole makes a lot of mistakes, though. Leaves himself open, throw long, unnecessary punches. So this fight, he got a virtuoso performance fight, but if he fights Brandes, it should be a tough fight for cruiserweight supremacy. But I know it's going to be an early night. His opponent offered nothing. Body shot, didn't get up. Fight over. I was like, okay, but Brandes will be a very tough fight for Okole.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. How about you, Reg?
Yeah, me, the big dummy for not taking that step aside, man. He brought himself into a barbecue and he was the platter. He got ate up, man. And I like his confidence early in the fight, but it quickly went out the window as soon as Okole landed the right hand before even dropping the guy. Okole caught him. He was fighting with a lot of confidence and challenging Okole on the inside, landing some good shots on Okole, and I was like, this is going to be one of these nights for Okole, because Okole, like Kurt was saying, was swinging wide, missing some of these shots, and I was like, Okole got someone here that's possibly going to give him, what he wasn't expected. And this guy, the fact that this guy turned down, step aside, like he's looking serious in there. And the moment the right hand landed on him and it woke that guy up is the minute I seen his confidence like really, really dip away. Him starting to back up. He could have did more to avoid getting hit with that right hand. Okole landed the right hand that wobbled him and then ultimately caused him to go down. The third round where he gets caught with that body shot. It was just him not being clean to anticipate counters. It was cool to see Okole find that opening, swinging out wide. And those are some of the mistakes that he's probably going to have to correct going in here against some of these other cruiserweights. But ultimately, he got it done. He got it done quick. He got it done against a guy who was game, who thought he was game to come in there and challenge him rather than stepping aside. He felt as if he could take the title from the champion, and he quickly learned that wasn't the case. But once that first right hand landed clean on him, it really started to change his mind. But that's my thoughts on it.
Yeah, and I want to say salute to another subscriber out there. We have Boxing Social Network out there. Just subscribe to the channel. Appreciate your subscription. hope that you're enjoying the show, and hope you'll be back to check out more of what we have to offer here on the Stormy B-Man channel. You know, let's talk about some issues that Okole has. You know, he has a big right hand, but he has bad footwork. This gentleman, it's going to be interesting if he gets in there with Breedis, because his footwork, he's not going to be able to get away with spreading his legs almost in a Van Damme-like split, you know, trying to wind up and throw those shots. He's going to have to learn how to hide that right hand, that big weapon of his. Everybody knows he's got it, and more experienced fighters will know that it's coming. So they'll be prepared for that. But against the guy he was in there with this evening, it was just going to be a matter of time, because he hit the guy early in the first round, was it? He hit him with something, and the guy seemed to lose his bowels. You understand? And I was like, okay, this is not going to go very long. And he made absolutely no adjustments. But Okole, they say that when he was in high school, he was 240-something pounds, 250 pounds. So he was a big boy. You understand? So for him to trim down and get down to the weight where he is now to fight professionally like that, maybe he's just doing himself a disservice by not being a natural heavyweight. I don't know. But, you know, there's some things that he needs to work on technically. He's definitely strong. He'll give people trouble because he has his size, range, and reach, you know, and that's something that he has going for him. But he definitely needs to tighten up his technique. I heard recently that he was giving Dillian White problems in the gym, sparring. So he has some ability, but for the long run, he's going to have to tighten up his skill set offensively, tighten up his defense, and get his footwork together. Because those three things, to remain at the top, you got to have them in order. Otherwise, you'll be on the losing end, like his stablemate was this evening, Mr. Joshua. So that's what I had to say about Mr. Okole, because I do see some holes there in what he brings, but he could do a lot better. You know what I mean? He could do a lot better. So I don't know how many of the fights prior to that you guys caught, but there were a couple of more fights. I know Ricky Hatton's son, Campbell, fought, and in a 6-rounder, I think this was his 4th, if not 5th fight, and he faced off against Sonny Martinez. And let me tell you, Sonny Martinez, I think he came in with a record of, I think it was like
2-4.
Yeah, and let me say, Sonny came in with the right idea, man. He was confident from the opening bell. He was moving around. He was catching Hatton coming in with some combinations, and every once in a while dropping that left hook to the liver. I liked how he boxed, man, and he boxed with confidence like he was the star. And it was funny because Hatton was just going in like his dad used to do, just catching shots on his way in. And I thought that Sonny won the fight. Kurt, what were your thoughts about that fight?
I thought Sonny Martinez won the fight, man. He landed more punches. The uppercut, the straight right hand, the uppercut was landed all night long. He was hitting the hand with great uppercuts, beautiful uppercuts, man. He boxed beautifully. But because he's his father's Ricky Hatton, he got the decision. But I enjoyed that fight. I thought Hatton lost that fight. Some people booed the decision, you know, rightfully so. You know, to me, Campbell Hatton is just a crude version of his father. Comes in over front foot, overly aggressive, gets hit with punches over and over again, gets hit with the same punch over and over again. Just like his daddy, they're going to get knocked out just like his daddy.
Yeah. How about you, Reggie?
I thought it was a robbery, man. It was a clear robbery, and even I was listening to the commentators. Even they were speaking about it, and they were like, he got a lot of stuff to work on. He was running right into uppercuts. The guy was showboating on him because he felt that confident. It was nothing Hatton was doing in there to show. And I think the referee, from what I heard, was the judge. And I was kind of leery about that referee in the ring during the fight. I didn't know he was judging. If that's correct, because I think I heard the announcer says the referee scorecard from Marcus McDonald was a 58-57. So I'm like, he did something in like that fourth round where this guy was teeing off on Haddon, and he pulled the guy away and kind of admonished him. I can't remember what the guy did. Whatever the guy did wasn't nothing serious. And I was like, here we go. We're going to have to worry about this. I'm going to have to worry about this dang ref. And then I'm worried, like, is he going to take a point because he's trying to protect the son of Haddon? But still, in a way, giving fighters undeserving fights is, you're not just robbing the guy who should have won. You're robbing this dang fighter who should have lost. It's because now you Haddon look as if, oh, yeah, I came here, I did my work, I can continue on being who I am. No, he should have suffered a loss. Let him feel what a defeat looks like so he can go in the gym and get the proper training that he needs. Like whatever his uncle is training him, or maybe it's just his mechanics, it's going to be bad for him because he's messing up. He's too heavy on that front foot, and not that he's heavy on the front foot, he's leaning in front of it. He's leaning over it. And that you're able to get that flush with uppercuts, like, come on, homie. Like, you're going to really have to tune some things up, or those defeats are going to start coming in very early, depending on how they move him. But I don't like that. It's the same thing with why speaking like with Rolly getting the decision that he got the little gifted decision, and these other fighters who gets gifts. It's not beneficial for the fighter. Nothing's wrong with them taking a loss as long as they learn from it, but to have them winning stuff because they have judges who are going to gift them because they're this and they're the son of that and they come from this. Like, nah, you don't do that. And it's going to end up costing Haddon. But that's my thoughts on that.
Yeah, I want to say salute to another's Cash App donation. It actually came in a lot earlier, and I almost forgot to acknowledge it, from Chi-Town's Finest. Salute to Chi-Town Finest with the Cash App. He says, keep up the good work. And he sent that earlier today. It was actually just before noon. So I wanted to acknowledge my man Chi-Town's Finest for his Cash App donation for the show. Listen, when these guys don't want to admit to the fighters that's losing and stuff like that, you know, Roy Jones didn't have a problem. Tony Bellew didn't have a problem saying that Haddon's son lost the fight. But there were others out there, you know, and they just couldn't pull themselves up to say, hey, yeah, you know, again, if the fighters come out and start telling the truth, man, but it's a long, hard process because you got so many people out here that just don't want to be revealing. And it's really of no benefit to them because even when they are on the losing end of unjust scorecard or something like that, it happens because no one wants to hold the people to task that judge the fights and everything. You have to do that, man, because it's a benefit to everyone that does participate in the sport. But when you don't participate in the sport, as an analyst does, you can get away with certain things. But you do have to acknowledge Haddon lost that fight. He did. Salute to Amiro out there who just subscribed to the channel. Appreciate your subscription and welcome to the STORMYBMAN channel. But yeah, those kind of things, man, we need to, you know, again, speak the truth about it. That's all I have to say on that. Speak the truth about it and we move forward. But he didn't win that fight. And Sonny Hernandez, wherever you at, man, just keep doing what you're doing. You'll be back. And I think that there's a lot of punches in Campbell Haddon's future. Punches that will be landing right smack dead on his mug. Okay? So that's what I thought about that one. And earlier, prior to that, we had Callum Smith, who was back. You know, we last saw him when he was getting beaten up by Canelo, okay? But he was back, and he took on this kid, Leonard Castillo. And he dropped that guy in the second round with a devastating KO. that saw the guy go into some kind of tremors or something with his leg. His leg wasn't even down on the canvas. It was raised up somewhat, like 6 to 8 inches off the canvas and just twitching. It looked like one of those Julian Jackson type knockouts. So he just must have hit the guy on a nerve or something like that. Kurt, were you able to see that fight?
No, I missed that fight. I wanted to see it. I had other engagements. I missed that fight. I'm going to go back and look at it. I heard it was the knockout of the night. His opponent is okay. That's a good news. Yeah. But you should have done that to Canelo Alvarez instead of a weak opponent.
I know, right? I know. Just goes to show. Here you go. You go in there against Canelo and you don't let your hands go. Then when you get in there against, like what Kurt just said, a lesser opponent, you trying to knock the guy in tomorrow. So, I mean, come on, man. That's crazy. But we got 164 people in here. It says, it's like, can you guys hit that like button? If you decide to hang around, the least you could do is show some respect, hit the like button, stop just ear slutting out there and show some support, man. Reggie and I, and sometimes Kurt, we do this show all the time. Some of you might be around for the first time, but we're very consistent in what we do. And we're not biased here. We talk about boxing straight up, meat and potatoes. It's none of that fluff here. So you see those who were in here, those inflated numbers. I didn't even acknowledge that because I knew what that was about. And as I said, there's already been a little discussion that something might be wrong with AJ, right? Maybe an eye problem or whatever. I don't want to hear that. I don't care. It's boxing. Injuries happen all the time. Deontay Wilder has fought with broken hands, arms in a sling and everything, pulled muscles, third-degree burns, and gone in there and still put people on their behind and out for the count. And there's people out here that, you know, getting a hurt eye. It's all a part of being in a boxing match, huh? And the first thing people want to say, oh, something happened, he got injured. I don't want to hear it. It was a fight. It was a fight. It happens, huh? Broken jaws, broken hands, broken ribs. If you don't want that to happen to you, don't get in the ring. And if you're too timid to watch that kind of thing, if it's your favorite person, don't watch the sport. But I'm not going to sit up and just, you know, talk about, oh, now if he was in a car accident or something like that, I'm like, oh, that's unfortunate. You know what? I'm sorry to hear that. But in the ring where people are, the intent is to do damage to the other guy, it's part of what goes with the territory. That's why we don't want people in there on PEDs. Canelo Alvarez, huh? Eddie Reynoso, and Oscar Valdez. We don't want to see people in there juiced to the gills. We want to see them in there heads up, because these are the kind of things that can happen to you. Reggie, what you got?
Yeah, no, on this eye injury, no, we were talking about in the chat about what injury he suffered, but I think, like I say, I think it's an injury that's going to keep him away from the game. I don't like Dylan White even said, he thinks the dog is going out of AJ. So suffering an injury like this from a small heavyweight, I think what motivates him, what moves him, what drove him into the sport, it was snatched from him today. And I don't think he's going to go forward. When he goes into the doctor's office and he gets examined for those injuries, he's done. I don't think AJ is really one of these guys that really I don't think AJ is one of these guys that was built for the sport. I don't know if he got into boxing to try to learn technique, to work on fighting, which is like how people go into martial arts and stuff. Boxing is really meant for people who are really fighters, who really have that dog, who really have that instinct to go in there. It takes a little bit of craziness to really be a boxer. You got to be a little bit crazy. You got to be willing to just go at it. I think it's a different type of mentality. The minds of a fighter, of a boxer, is different. Like, and you just can't go in there being on and off. And with him being off and suffering an injury like this from a guy who's not really known as a big puncher, this is going to be where he makes his decision at. So That's my thoughts on the significance of the eye injury. He ain't coming back from that. It's a done data.
Yeah. And it may not have happened had he had some head movement, right? We talked about this. Even when it happened to Dubois, we talked about this. It's like, dude, you hit me a couple times, I'm going to start moving my head. You know what I mean? I might not be able to do a lot of other things, but I'm going to get that damn head out of the way. You understand? That's boxing 101. Huh? That on the money. On the money. But we don't have to draw things out. Do you either of you brothers have anything else to say on this evening's cards, the main event or anything? I'll throw it Kurt's way because I like if Kurt wants to get on and get his rest or whatever. Kurt, what you got?
Lastly, I want to say I enjoyed the Usyk and AJ fight. I kind of knew something wild was going to happen. I just didn't know what. I kept bringing the fight up, but even though I picked Joshua, I'm not surprised that Usyk boxed his way to a unanimous decision, and he boxed beautifully. Joshua just one of those guys who got into boxing, who wanted to try the sport out, but has limitations. Many fighters have limitations, so you can't put that on Joshua. It's just that he ran into a guy who has a very good boxing IQ and who's an educated fighter, not a smart fighter. There's a difference. Educated fighter, educated left hand, was taught to fight a certain way. Him and Lomachenko from that school, from that Ukraine school, they was taught to fight a certain way. And if you don't have pure boxing skills, you can't combat that or counter that style. When you're a pure boxer, you can counter any style. You can overcome a puncher. You can overcome any type of style. But AJ doesn't have a boxer's mentality. He has a puncher's mentality. And he was exposed tonight, and you saw it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And I appreciate you stopping in, Kurt, to be a part of the show this evening, because I know you said you would be listening in the chat, but to see you on the panel here is, it's refreshing. You're always welcome. And I hope that everybody out here is continuing with their well wishes and hopes for Kurt to a recovery, because he's going through a lot right now. But the fact that he shows that he's here and being on the panel, it means a lot. And we need to return that same type of energy to him as he deals with the things that he's going through. So thanks again, Kurt.
Absolutely, man. Big up to Reggie and the show, you and yourself, STORMYBMAN, and the chat. I knew it was going to be a good fight. Like I said, I didn't know which way it was going to go. I picked AJ, but I'm not surprised one bit that Usyk won the fight, and we have some more fights to look forward to. But this is the second high-profile fight where you've seen boxing come to the forefront. A boxer with not a lot of power, Usyk and Ugas, both fighters the name of you. So, that's I'm gonna drop off and I'm gonna continue to listen. And you guys have a great night.
All right. Thanks again, bro.
Yes, sir. Peace. Yes, sir, Reg.
So, Reg, do you have any additional thoughts? Not final thoughts, but any additional thoughts on what we were able to see in tonight's fight? It was a very good fight. It was competitive.
You still there, Stormy?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Okay, there you go. I hear you now.
Yeah. No, I was saying if you had any other thoughts on the fight, not final thoughts, but if on tonight's main event, because it was a competitive fight. For some people who may not have been introduced to Alexander Usyk, they may have found this like, oh, this is like an upset of Buster Douglas proportions, but it wasn't. What do you have anything else on it?
Yeah, I wouldn't use the word competitive. I thought it was a one-sided beatdown. I didn't see nothing competitive in this fight, man. And everybody I see in the post fight, all them UK fighters shot. It wasn't close to being competitive, man. And I was thinking about. It was a video with AJ in there play fighting with his fight. This is boxer from over there. I think he's out of Africa somewhere, but he's one of these guys that migrate over to the UK, picked up boxing, but he's a chef. And him and AJ over there doing like play fighting. And once this guy started doing a lot of moving, like side to side, head moving, rolling around, they doing this play fighting, shadow boxing. AJ looks so uncomfortable in that moment. And when I've seen that video a while ago, I was thinking like, dang, AJ looks so uncomfortable against this smaller guy. And this is where they doing it. They like doing the play fighting, this guy moving around. He comes up under AJ and picks AJ up. He's probably like a super middleweight or light heavyweight. And that's what was in the video. But it was like AJ looked uncomfortable in that. And then to see it actually have to apply against a fighter who used that same kind of movement that I've seen in that play fighting video with USYK and AJ from the onset of that fight looked so confused as he did when they were play fighting in that shadow boxing match he had with that fighter. It's just bad, man. And the thing that I'm like, I don't like to just crap on a fighter like that, but the reason why I'm like gloating and happy to see it is because I hate these fighters who hang up the sport. I don't like these drug cheats. I don't like these corrupted referees. I don't like corrupted judges, corrupted sanctioning body presidents, corrupted or BS writers, complainers that do content. I don't like none of that. And I sure in the heck don't like a fighter who locks the sport up in avoiding fighters who they should be fighting, getting the paydays and fights they should be fighting, building legacies and fights they should be fighting, rather than trying to knock a legend who has already put his time and work in to go in, think you're going to cherry pick, you suffer a loss in that one, then you come into this fight against the smallest of the heavyweights and you suffer a loss. And you and your promoter have been pulling this trickery off in the game. And this is what they deserve. This is what they get. And then it's unfortunate he suffered this injury that I think not even the injury, the embarrassment is going to pull him away from the sport. It's just not in him no more. Mentally, from that video you played, it plays a lot into where AJ is, and it played a lot into what we saw where AJ is. Mentally, he's defeated. To walk backwards, to watch AJ walk backwards to a small heavyweight who ain't known for his power, and this dude still rocks you, he ain't cut for it no more. He ain't cut from it, just from the optics of everything we saw. Yes, it just ain't there no more.
Yes, sir. Yes, you said it. You said a mouthful there. But yeah, let's go ahead and get on out of here, Reggie, and let people go on and enjoy the rest of their evening. My wife is calling me. We're gonna go to dinner, and so let everybody know where they can follow you and catch these great fights.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Y'all can catch me on both channels, Boxing Conversations with Reggie Owens, and the backup channel, Boxing Conversations with Reggie Owens too, man. And I cover everything from boxing, politics, social news, and all that. But that's all I got, folks. Great show. Hit that like button, subscribe on the way out. Peace.
Yes, sir. And I appreciate everybody that came in. I want to say salute to Douglas Linnell out there, who decided to subscribe to the channel as well. We picked up a few subscribers this evening, but you guys must know that this is how Reggie and we work. Every once in a while, we're blessed to have Kurt or another guest on for the post-fight show, but this is what we do. Reggie calls them, and then we come on together and break them down and discuss them. And salute to KQKC Boxing Network out there. The OG is out there. He calls the fights as well, and he sends his audience over here. So we appreciate all the support that we gain from everybody coming from all directions, man. And we knew that the numbers might blow up this evening simply because of who was fighting and where. But at the same time, you know, we're not biased here. We give honest assessments of boxing here. So for those who were on early and a few that might still be in here listening, stick around. You'll learn something on the Stormy B-Man channel. You'll find out that we give it straight up, no filter here. So thanks again to everybody that joined us for this evening. We'll catch you guys on the next show for the post-fight. And then for those of you who tune in to Stormy B-Man for the call-in show, that's tomorrow morning at 10:30 a.m. It's number 11, the call-in. And we'll be talking about the fight even more tomorrow with the call-in show. So salute to everybody out there. Salute to the LDBC. The General was out there listening a little bit this evening. Great to see him. Always gracing us with his presence as well. The man who formed the LDBC. It's a great thing that we got going out here where we could bring boxing content unfiltered to the listeners out here. So from me and my man Kurt Sugar, a.k.a. Curtis Anderson, and Boxing Conversations with Reggie Owens, this is Stormy B-Man. We're signing off for this evening. We'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace to everybody. Remain safe. Take care of your family. All right.